Chromanoids. 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 Chromanoids.
Okay, here we have Evangelos Kotsioris and Rutger Huiberts. Welcome to Chromanoids. Are you human?
As part of the curatorial team, I've been asking the question for a year now, but also as a team of the two of us contributing a project, I think the question we've been asking is, are we aliens? And that's because we've been trying to step away from the perspective of the human and try to see what makes us human from the outside, if that is possible.
Your project is really amazing how it depicts one very specific project from NASA, no? That it is like how they manage some archives, some images archives from all over the world, just like to send it to another kind of future, another kind of civilization, and how could they deal with human beings or humankind, no? In a way. Could you explain a little bit this project?
Yeah, so our installation is based on the Voyager space probes.
Yeah.
In 1977, NASA sent out 2 space probes that had a mission to document the outer regions of the solar system. But the realization that these space probes would drift away far from Earth into infinity made NASA realize that these probes might actually be found by alien civilizations. So what they did is basically add it's in a way a portrait of Earth and humans, and they attach these to the back of the space probes as a message in a bottle that would drift away with these space probes.
So basically, they attached on the back of each spacecraft one golden record that would include 116 images of life on Earth, a series of sounds and music and greetings from, created by humans, and 1 hour of brainwave recordings of one human person. So it's like 3 different ways of representing what humanity is to a species that we don't know. So essentially, it's like creating a mini exhibition about what it means to be human and sending it out somewhere in space.
Media, and in that case, is extremely important, no? Because I think that some of the recording devices are like one of the most dated kind of technologies, no? That we could think of, no? From the I don't know, the phonograph to the MP3 to the other digital kind of media, no? So, what were like the discussions on the selection of this kind of technology?
Yeah. You mean the technology we used or the technology back then?
The technology back then.
Yeah. We have a common on both.
Yeah,
Maybe you can...
I think first of all, they were very limited in the amount of information that they could send out, and this was they had to compress all the information into an audio-visual record that could somehow also basically be stable over time. So the medium itself that was attached to that basically posed a limit for how much information they could send out. So in a way, if we would send out a similar message today, what would we send out is probably a copy of the internet or something that's much smaller but contains much more information. So that medium, in a way, dictated. It's very much focused on highlights and showing contrast and variety of things that happen on planet Earth. So, for example, if you look at the way the music was selected, there was a lot of debate. There was a whole commission selecting 3 German soundtracks from Baroque music or traditional bagpipes from Azerbaijan. And they had to somehow compare all these different options and select only a very limited amount of characteristic portraits of humans in a way.
And for the exhibition, so what we did was to create a VJ remix of the visuals and the soundtracks, which are experienced simultaneously. Well, on the record, photographic record is a linear medium, so you see things only as a sequence. So instead what we did, we took some of the images and some of the soundtracks and shuffled them, so to put them in a way that is not necessarily linear. And you can experience both simultaneously. And the idea also behind shuffling was that throughout the whole duration of the month of the exhibition, different visitors would experience different clashings of visuals and sounds. So it's something that we could, to do very easily today and alters the perception of these images that travel both in magazines and in publications like National Geographic at the time, and now they travel somewhere outside of our solar system.
One of the aspects of the exhibition of your project, I mean, is that actually what we are just like contemplating is several images of everyday life. No? Why everyday life? Or is everyday life making the universe more human in a way?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, it's a very particular moment that these images were selected. It was the end of the 70s, and there was a very wide kind of understanding of humanity being as this kaleidoscopic image of different people, different nationalities, as Rutger explained. So at the time, the committee, which was chaired by Carl Sagan, actually, they thought it would be good to show, they had debates on what to show, and one of the decisions was to exclude, for example, scenes of war or violence, which, you know, if you ask me, it's one of the things that makes us human as well throughout history. So instead they tried to focus more on the positive messages and, you know, the kind of more peaceful representation of humanity, which is quite inclusive nonetheless. So everyday life was one of the aspects that they thought would be more useful for explaining what we do on this planet to a species that has no idea about us.
In a way, also, this everyday life has already changed so much, and this space probe is only at a very small distance from the Earth if you look at the bigger scheme of things. So by now, the images on the record are already so old-fashioned in a way, and the everyday life that we recorded back then is not what it now is not what it used to be. And if we would send out the same message today, then
We'll send some of this.
would look completely different.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true, because they were trying just like to, in a way, like delete all of the violent images, and these images are extremely violent because of this. No, I mean, like the depiction, for example, of the families or what the families are extremely violent. No, like especially like the ones that are coming, like for example, from the United States. No, that it is like this kind of nuclear white family that are just like in Christmas, I think, or in Thanksgiving, no, celebrating in a way, no, everybody like extremely happy and heteronormative, no, and that they could be read like as extremely violent images in the definition of the family nowadays, no.
I mean, if you look at the actual record, which is the end of the whole animation, you see that the title of the record is, one of the sides says, The Sounds of the Earth, Planet Earth, United States of America. So in a way, an agency like NASA, belonging to a certain geographical location on this planet, takes the responsibility somehow of speaking on behalf of all humanity. So that already poses this problem that you mentioned.
There's another instance in which there was a debate on whether they should depict nudity on these images. So the entire recording of humans doesn't show nudity, which is a similar sort of curatorial almost intervention. Like, you don't show nudity because it's not, because it would hurt the feelings of aliens, or would it hurt the feelings of humans? It's sort of a perverse distancing from objectivity in a way. And
and they actually selected something like 10 images of the human anatomy, and so you can see the internal organs, you can even see the sexual organs depicted in representational methods, but you know, it was considered still in 77 very provocative to send the picture of a naked couple with a pregnant woman that was in the initial selection. So that was the only one that didn't make the cut for the final shipping into space.
Okay, what did you expect from the audience also, like, to see in this project?
Well, we thought this was an interesting episode of human history in which we, basically the question, are we human, is something that we've been asking ourselves for a while, and it's an interesting, we would like the audience to realize that there's many ways of highlighting what you are, and this is just an episode from the 1970s, but nowadays we would probably be something else.
I think, yeah, thinking at the moment that we inhabit today, exactly, what would be for me that was the most challenging question, and there's no answer really. What would be the representation or the summary of what we are today? And in the images, for example, there's pictures of frogs and there's chimps and there's all kinds of dolphins and other things. So it would be funny to see if, just as an alien species looking at these images, a species might think that the ones who sent these images into space might be in the frogs or might be in the dolphins. So it's all these questions that we hope to provoke and not necessarily to find an answer, but to keep them at the back of the heads of all of us.
Okay, many thanks.
Thank you.